Oh, hello there. Yes. Well, good grief. Bit of sad news, yeah. The death of Geordie, guitarist from Killing Joke. Not a vastly well-known band, and certainly not a vastly well-known individual, but one of those sort of, I don't know, slightly important figures from my youth, I suppose. I saw Killing Joke for the first time at the big CND demo in 1980. Summer of 1980, attended by, God knows, over 250,000 people. And standing in Trafalgar Square and suddenly being met by the as of then unknown and unheard Killing Joke, and that kind of monumental noise that came from them was really something. He was a vastly underrated musician who was enormously influential to large numbers of people, and the only word that you can use to describe the sound is powerful. There's a link down below to Killing Joke in 1980. I managed to see them, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. Every single time was a stonker of a gig. They were something. Anyway, moving on from that, yes. People with a sort of cursory or otherwise understanding of economics actually often have a, fairly good understanding of economics, I think. Sometimes I'm accused of really not getting economics, but I've read a reasonably large amount about it. And the thing very often is that when you know in your bones that something doesn't work, it comes as something... Well, it always feels slightly odd when somebody tries to persuade you otherwise. And given neoliberalism that has been with us for about 40 years and it patently doesn't work in the form that it's supposed to anyway, it's a bit disheartening, to be quite honest, to be here in 2025, to have pundits still telling us things and trying to persuade us through nefarious means that magically, if we can just manage to give some more tax dollars to the rich, that everything will be fine, because that's what it ultimately boils down to, one way or another. And there was very much that was on display yesterday. We had this from the Reformists. Richard Tice rose back on Reform's £90 billion tax cut pledge. Nigel Farage's deputy leader says election promises now direction of travel. Yeah, I think the party have actually woken up to the fact that promising various things now which are going to look, I think, very redundant in a short period of time might not be such a good idea. And it's not necessarily to do per se with the economics of it, it's to do with the optics of it, because currently in the States, not the Republicans, Donald Trump is trying to push through his big, beautiful bill, which contains a fortune being given to the rich. And it's being paid for out of basically education and health cuts on a blunt level. And with the November elections rearing their head, I don't know if it's going to go through. I don't know. It only takes a slither of Republicans to decide to not vote for it, and it won't go through, which will no doubt reinforce certain people's view that maybe democracy isn't a good thing. But it really is an astounding amount of money that Donald Trump is suggesting he's going to give to rich people. And of course, they tell themselves, the rich that is, that it's a very good idea because obviously it will all ultimately trickle down. That's always it. They don't like the idea of trickle down now because after 20 odd years it's become a bit of a redundant phrase, but that's really what they mean, because if you want to get the economy moving you have to give people with super yachts another super yachts, because something, the real economy just doesn't work. And yes, it's probably good that such people are trying to do so. I mean, we still do get all the standard bearers in the media. This I've noticed from Fraser Nelson: want to help the poor, don't chase the rich. Taxing the wealthy sounds like an easy way to fix inequality, but as Rachel Reaches is discovering, it's not as simple as that. Well, in a world where capital can move around very, very quickly, yes, I suppose it isn't. But everybody, pretty much everybody, is in agreement that we have spent a very long period of time making sure that the super rich have become super richer, and at the same time it appears not to be working for the rest of us. And just anyone on a vaguely sensible level, that old common sense thing if you like, would think maybe that isn't the case. I mean, Fraser has been trying recently to tell us that actually we've become a more equal society. But again, anyone my age will tell you, no, mate, we haven't. And I don't care what graph you want to put up. We had social mobility after the Second World War. We had a sensible social democracy based on Keynesian economics. Now, you can argue the rights and wrongs of Keynesian economics, but it kind of works, and social democracy kind of works, and we all know that because capitalism kind of doesn't work properly, then it needs to, well, have some reining in going on. But it doesn't really please the people at the top, of course, and the people at the top are very well supported by our glorious free press, and they have been jumping up and down over the last, well, a few days as well. We've got Paul Marshall telling us about all the dangers of very rich people manipulating what we see. Yeah, I know, you really can't make that one up. GB News owner warns of shadow banning by Meta X and YouTube. Paul Marshall, who also owns The Spectator and Unheard, said that YouTube suppressed content under pressure from the US government. Yeah, it'd be awful if you had, people that owned the media or could put pressure on the media doing such things. I don't know. It's one of those you can't really sort of make it up, but they pretend that there is a free market in the media, and there just isn't. The media is dominated vastly in the UK. About 80% of all media is owned by a mere handful of individuals or conglomerates. And yeah, again, this whole thing about, wouldn't it be dreadful if the UAE owned a 15% share in the Daily Telegraph? I don't know. Would anyone notice the difference? What exactly would they do? Would there be huge articles from Fraser Nelson? No, he doesn't work there anymore. But would there be huge articles from people suggesting that Sharia law was a really good thing? Where Richard Tice lives. Yeah. Foreign state ownership is a systematic threat to free press. The government's about turn will open the door to state-funded media and undermine independent journalism. What, more than normal? More than now? Yeah? I guess it's just absolutely fine if Rupert Murdoch, not a British citizen, owns vast amounts of our media because that's the free market. But if a conglomerate with a fair amount of Saudi or otherwise money in it also does the same thing, then it's absolutely dreadful. I don't know. If you can explain that one to me, please do. I don't really understand it. A free market is a great thing. I'm a great fan of free markets. Lenin was as well, after all. But only if they work. And the only way they work is if they're regulated. So if we're going to ask about some nice press regulation, Paul, I really don't mind, mate. Yeah, I've got a few suggestions from us for you, and one of which might be that we just don't simply allow people like Paul Marshall to, well, basically pump £30 million or £40 million, as it will be very, very soon, into propaganda for the Reform Party. Anyway, do have a lovely day. Do listen to a bit of Killing Joke, and enjoy. The weather's going to turn. It's going to get a bit nip. Oh dear, and a bit wet. Oh dear. Still, never mind. Time for me week off, eh?